Hi, my name is Carly, and I'm a U.S. diplomat. I work here in Almaty, Kazakhstan, as a cultural affairs officer. I never really read comics. I've always watched superhero movies, and I watched a lot of cartoons as a kid, a lot of Disney movies and that kind of thing. But it's funny because when I was a little kid, I was interviewed for the local newspaper about reading comics, and I didn't have anything to say because I'd never really read them. We had comics in the newspaper, so everybody would read those as a kid, just like Garfield or Peanuts, like Snoopy. But I never was into comic books. Well, it means that I was kind of a weird kid, because everybody, when they're young, in America at least, reads comics. So that made me different, I guess. But everybody learns differently, and so I think for me, I have a hard time following a story in comic form. It just isn't a format that I was used to. I have a daughter, I have an 8-year-old daughter, and she only reads comics and graphic novels. She has a hard time following text in a book, but with characters and faces and that layout, she can read an entire book in a few minutes. So everybody has their own style. So this was my introduction to Captain Marvel. I didn't know a lot about her before. I know that there's a movie coming out, and so I was excited about it because of that. You know, we have relatively few female superheroes. So when Wonder Woman came out, that was a really big deal. I mean, before that, who was it? Like Catwoman, or I don't even know who the last big female superhero was. So this is a big deal. And the movie is supposed to come out in March. In Kazakhstan, I think it's going to come out around Women's Day, so that's pretty exciting. But I didn't know anything about her before, so this was an introduction for me. Well, like Captain Marvel's story, it's kind of told here. The way it's told here isn't at the beginning. It's not like the first page is like, okay, here's the history of Captain Marvel. So it takes a little while to figure out who she is and why she is the way she is, where she got her powers. And so I think, like, for someone who's read some of the other Captain Marvel stories, or who knows a lot more about her, maybe it's easier. But I'd read the reviews of the different Captain Marvel books, and this one is the one that people were the most excited about, that really speaks to people. So this was the one I wanted to read. It's a tough question, and I always say I don't play favorites. I'm a mom, I have 3 kids, so if I'm going to say something is my favorite, it's only because I'm trying to get them to do something. Whoever brushes their teeth first is my favorite, but otherwise I'm very careful not to say that I have favorites. I am sure that that is a superpower. Yes, all superheroes brush their teeth. Yes, definitely. So, I mean, it really, like, I have grown up as a girl or a woman my whole life. And I'm from a traditional part of the United States. I'm from the South. And I have daughters. I have daughters who are 8 and 5, and they're on the verge of turning into young women. And so I'm very conscious of the role models that we have and kind of the stuff that society is telling us and telling them. I remember once, for example, when I was in grade school, when I was maybe 10 years old, a friend and I were running around the cafeteria and we were being wild. And the cafeteria lady came over to me and she said, "You're not being very ladylike." And I said, "Wait a minute, my friend isn't being very ladylike," but because he was a guy, nobody said anything to him. But it's those kinds of messages that you get from the time that you're young. And so having a role model, having superheroes who are women is hugely important. And so that was what I was most excited about at first. But I was excited about the movie coming out, and Kazakhstan now, there was a Comic-Con in Almaty recently. There's one that's going to take place in Taldykorgan. They did it last year and it was pretty successful. And there's going to be one in Astana. So I said, okay, I need an outfit for when I go to Comic-Cons this year. And so I knew Captain Marvel was coming out, and so I went online to try to find a Captain Marvel outfit. And it was really hard because basically the things female superheroes wear, I mean, you've seen Wonder Woman and she isn't even covered after a certain point. She basically wears a bathing suit all the time. And I'm not comfortable wearing a bathing suit to a big event where I'm going to see a lot of people. So I was looking for something that I could wear, and I really realized that, okay, we have a good number of female superheroes out there now, but the Catwoman outfits are all tight plastic or leather. Even Captain Marvel, everything was basically tights and a bathing suit. And it just really isn't that comfortable. And so I did find my Supergirl shirt. But even this, you know, it still like has the lines to make me not look fat and make me look like I'm curvy. It's just much more body conscious than I expected. And actually I thought that was something that was interesting as I was looking through the book, because the author is a woman, the text was created by a woman, but the book was still drawn by a man. And I don't know offhand of any famous comic artists in America who are women. I'm sure they exist, but at the DC and Marvel top level, I'm not sure. But I thought it was interesting to look at some of the art, because they have like all of the different ways that Captain Marvel has been represented. And my daughter actually, her favorite was the kid. And you look at the kid and, you know, she doesn't have the curves and she doesn't have the bathing suit look going on. I thought that was really cool. But there are an infinite number of ways to represent these characters. Where is it? Somewhere else in here. Oh yeah, it was the drawing that Denise had done. And you see how in the children's drawing also, the characters aren't curvy. When kids draw women, they don't draw the curves. But somehow when adult men do, they draw, you know, a much more womanly version. I thought that was very interesting. But it also really made me think just about storytelling and how important it is that people are telling their own stories. Because when you have even a man creating female characters, men and women, we live alongside each other our whole lives. But when you read a novel and it's a woman's story written by a man, usually it depends on the talent of the writer, I guess, but usually it has a very different feel than a novel about a female character written by a woman. And it's true in almost every context. And a lot of the creative industries, especially film and television, and especially in Kazakhstan, you don't see as many female writers and directors, especially at the very high levels. So there's something that they call the Bechdel test, and that is in a movie. If you look at a movie, the Bechdel test is, are there two female characters who, one variant is, do they have names? Do they even have their own names? Because a lot of times the female characters aren't the main heroes. Are there two female characters with names who talk to each other and talk about something that isn't just a man? And I remember I heard about this not that long ago, and it really made me think about some of the movies I've seen. And now every time I watch a movie, especially if the main character is a man, you look and you say, wow, the female characters are his mother, his girlfriend, his wife, maybe a coworker. You know, Superman had Lois Lane, who was the coworker and the love interest. But it really is time for women to be writing their own stories and to be the main characters and to be real people, not just the girlfriend of or the mother of. And it's true not just for gender, it's true for everything. In Kazakhstan, you guys are having a really exciting time where people are producing really interesting stories that are uniquely Kazakhstani. And actually I brought a couple comic books. There's this Yermak Bachar series, and the stories are uniquely Kazakhstani characters, and the art is really great. But these are produced locally. The guy who makes them lives here in Almaty and has been to all of these Comic Cons. But you see, they're historic figures. You see national dress, you see symbols of Kazakhstan, and the stories are really resonant, I think, because of that. And there are female artists in Kazakhstan, actually, Ice Baby Comics. There's a gal here who creates, she's drawn herself, sometimes she'll draw herself compared to idealized characters, to anime or something like that. And she draws herself as a very normal person, not super, unless she's pretending to be. And I find it very relatable. And she talks about things like how hard it is to exercise or how hard it is to cook, as well as her mother cooks and things like that really speak to me. So it's important to find the role models, but it's also, for those of us who can write or draw or create a film or whatever it is, it's really good for people to be creating their own stories. Oh yeah. Yeah, I wondered about that too, like I don't know when that really happens, but you go to a toy store. Oh, I have some pictures that I can share because it's actually a pet project of mine to take pictures in toy stores when you have the same toy and they have one version in red and blue and another version in pink and purple. And I've seen it with snowball guns, I've seen it with doctor's kits, with every kind of thing where it's the exact same toy. It's not even a different character, a different shape, a different function. They just have marketed it very differently for two different kids. And so when you see it for kids that young, you realize that it's not the kids who are choosing to have toys marketed to them in two different colors, but somebody who's buying the toy, somebody who's selling the toy has decided, okay, we're going to have one for boys and then we'll have one over here for girls. Instead of saying, let's have one toy that appeals to everyone that we can share. Yeah. It's really great that you are studying English and that you have this commitment to learning. English, I see opening doors for so many people around the world. It's really interesting because I saw a survey not that long ago that said that the reason that Kazakhstanis want to learn English isn't what I would have guessed, which is to get into business and make a lot of money, to go to better schools, to have success, like personal riches. But Kazakhstanis like to learn English so that they can travel around the world and meet people and connect to people. And I think that's so wonderful. And I think it really reflects the hospitality that I've seen here. So kudos to all of you young people. Keep up your studies, and I hope to meet you in person someday.